Welcome. My name is Lissa, and you are witnessing the first episode of my show, podcast, whatever series this ends up being. This is more so just a way for me to express my feelings about the ongoings of society, politics, drama, whatever. Today, our chat sesh is going to be about different stories found on different LGBTQIA plus subreddits in honor of today being the day that the Supreme Court is potentially hearing the Obergfell case, which is the case that gives gay people the right to marry. I myself am a member of the queer community, so this is very near and dear to my heart. I'm hoping that, obviously our Supreme Court will uphold my right to marry who I would like to marry. But of course, they did take away, abortion rights in the Constitution. So not a lot of hope there, but here is to hoping that they are able to get that fixed or keep it or, show mercy on us poor homosexuals. But I suppose that might be a little bit of a pipe dream. So today's first story comes from r/gay by user MTG988. Am I the asshole for refusing to tell my friend's teenage son that being gay is wrong? Hi Reddit. I, 20M, own a small car workshop. My friend, 40M, recently asked me to teach his 16-year-old son what it means to be a man because the boy came out to him as gay. This is confusing to me because my friend had always been supportive of the LGBT community until he started dating his new girlfriend, who is an extremely conservative Catholic. Since then, his behavior has changed drastically. I agreed to take the boy on at the workshop because help is help, but I refuse to give him the kind of lecture my friend expects. For context, the boy is a really good person, kind, hardworking, and shy. He struggles to express himself verbally, but is excellent at work. The exact message my friend wants me to deliver is: being gay is wrong because you're depriving yourself of many things in life. Being gay will take away your chance to work. It will ruin your future, your career, and your chances at university. As somebody who recently re-enrolled into college courses as an adult, I'm 26, and this is I took some college classes in high school, and I'm currently returning back to school. Being gay doesn't have anything to do with it. They don't ask you, oh, hey, are you gay on your college admission forms? They don't care. They just want to make sure that you are able to pay for school and that your GPA is high enough and all of that. If you don't change, your parents will take away your education and your university funds because they don't want a child of the devil. So basically they're threatening his education because he expressed who he is. I'm bisexual myself, and I think this is cruel and damaging. I've just been teaching him the work and treating him with respect. I don't want to say anything about his sexuality because it's not my place and it would be harmful. Am I the asshole for refusing to deliver this message to my friend's son? No. And your friend is a terrible fucking parent. Children should be able to go to their parents with things and not be punished for them, especially things that would be considered very extremely personal, daughters and being able to approach their parents about their first period or their first boyfriend or whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, things like that. Your children should be able to approach you and tell you about their sexuality or their gender or whatever without the fear of you turning hateful towards them or punishing them for their identity. If you are unable to deal with the fact that your children might have some belief system or identity that is something that you don't agree with, you shouldn't have children, because children do learn from their parents what to believe, how to act, whatever, But at the end of the day, when a kid grows up, they become an individual. And an individual has the power and the right to decide for themselves what they believe in and who they are. And if that's something that you are not prepared to be, supportive of, in my personal opinion, you shouldn't be a parent. If you're like a Christian, Catholic, if you're a pagan, Islamic, Jewish, whatever, and you are not prepared for your child to someday come to you and say, I don't believe in your faith, I believe in this faith, or I don't have a faith, or I'm still, researching and deciding for myself what I would like to believe, and you mentally, emotionally can't handle that, if you want to punish your child for that, you should not be a parent. Same goes for sexuality, gender, whatever. If you are not prepared someday for your child to come to you and say, I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm transgender, I'm non-binary, whatever, you shouldn't have children. Because your children are not always going to grow up to be a mirror image of yourself. A lot of the times children, especially as time goes on and the culture changes and society changes, it's even more and more likely that your child is going to be less and less like you. So, in my opinion, if you can't accept your child for who they are because you know how you were raised or the faith that you believe in, you should not be having children. And that is my opinion. I think I did get some comments about that. Let's see. User Red Rocket says, no, he is wrong for trying to outsource psychological abuse of his kid. You are a moral human being for refusing to do so. Slay. This next story comes from the subreddit r/late bloomer lesbians. This is a subreddit for women who come out as lesbian later in life. Maybe, they've already experienced or are currently in a heterosexual relationship and they have maybe children or they're just questioning. And this is kind of like a safe place for those people to go and have discussions and like talk about their feelings. So this one is by u/putrid tooth. I just blew up my life and I feel awful. I had the divorce conversation with my husband tonight. He had seen it coming, but it was still a shock. I spent all day gearing up for it and feeling good about it, and as soon as he walked in the door, my brain froze. It took me forever to get it out. I've cried so much. He's cried so much. I feel exactly like I did when we put my cat down a couple of years ago. I knew it was necessary, but as soon as I did it, I couldn't believe what I'd done and instantly regretted it. I feel like I killed my husband, even though he's standing right there. Our current cat is more bonded to him, so he might take her. So I'll lose both of them. We were having problems separate from our sex life, though the pressure to have sex was definitely my biggest issue, but I love him anyways and I'll miss him incredibly. I have to move out of this apartment and now everything is so expensive. I don't know. I'm just in more shock than I thought I would be. I thought I had already done a lot of grieving on my own time, but I guess not. This is the worst thing I've ever done. I'm trying to trust that the me from 6 hours ago knew what she was doing. So this is the challenge with, especially older people. Back in the day, it wasn't as common to be gay. I mean, there were gay people that were out and proud, but we've only had gay marriage for 15 years? It was, codified or not codified, but Obergfell was under Obama. And people who maybe got married 30 years ago or 40 years ago or, whatever. I don't recall the age of this poster. But so sometimes, you fall into the trap of what you should do and who you should be. I know for me personally, for a really long time, I did, seek male attention because I thought that's who I should be. I thought that's what I wanted. I thought that if I did so, that would give me some type of validation from others or from them or from myself because, all my friends are mostly straight or they're bisexual. And for a long time, I did think that I was bisexual because I was just seeking that male validation that yes, I'm attractive, I'm wanted, I'm desirable by these people. When in reality, I didn't really want their attention at all. I just kind of felt that that's what I should be doing. And it wasn't until actually extremely recently, like within the last few years, that I kind of came to terms with the fact that like I don't have desire for men. I don't. I like being their friend. I have plenty of male friends. We get along fine. But as far as like physical, romantic feelings, I just do not carry that for men. And I know that a lot of people who are older, who maybe didn't feel like they had the option to discover those things about themselves, maybe they did get married to a man, or they're in a long-term relationship with a man and they've had children or pets, or they've purchased property or whatever. A lot of the times they feel trapped because they haven't had the opportunity to be able to find themselves and make those choices. And now that we live in a more accepting society, or at least we're supposed to, they have that opportunity now to find themselves and to express themselves more freely. And they have to make those hard choices. Do I stay in this marriage where I'm not being true to myself? I'm not being true to this person. And, just stick it out for the rest of my life and maybe regret that I never took the opportunity to like be gay and experience love with with the person that I'm really attracted to? Or do I bite the bullet? Do I hurt this person that I very dearly love? Because like, even though, you may not be attracted to a man if you're a woman, or attracted to a woman if you're a man, you can still hold love for people of the opposite sex. Like, you can hold platonic love and familial love for those people. And especially, if you've been married to a person or dating a person for a really long time, you may have like love for that person and care for that person in a familial way because like, you're so close, but it just might not be like that the romantic or intimate attraction is there. So it's a really hard choice for people like that to have to make, and it can cause devastation. Your whole life changes after that. You have to start over. And kind of especially when you're older and you are first kind of dipping your toes into the queer community, it's really hard to kind of figure out where to start. Like, you don't know where to go. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know if you'll really be accepted, or if, they will see you differently because you're not a gold star lesbian or gay person, like you've been in a heterosexual relationship before. So it is really hard to like kind of step foot into the community if you don't know where to go. Granted, for the most part, the LGBTQ community is very, very open, very, very loving, and very, very understanding. But there are going to be some people out there who are like, oh, you were dating or married to this man or this woman for however long, and now all of a sudden you're out here saying you're gay, right? There will be people who are like that, unfortunately, but for the most part, the vast majority of the gay community will be extremely understanding about your circumstances, because it is very likely that a lot of those people have experienced the same type of situation that you have. This next story comes from r/lesbian, actually. That is user dry_consequence_7852. What's a red flag you'll never ignore again in relationships dating? I broke up with my ex last week, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to reflect on flags that I won't ignore in my next relationship. For me, it's a red flag if someone is unwilling to try new things like food, hobbies, sports, or traveling as new things is something I crave. I know there can be a lot of different red flags, but what is significant to you or advice you would give? So I have also experienced being in a relationship where the other person wasn't really willing to try new things, or like they weren't really willing to communicate with me the things that they didn't like. And then it kind of just got to the point where like the things that they didn't like made us uncompatible. So probably a little bit over a year ago, I was in a relationship with this girl, very sweet, very cute girl. She and I were very different in a lot of ways, but for the most part, we got along really well. We had a lot of things in common, as far as like hobbies and, interests. Like, we both really love to crochet. I love to crochet. If you would like to purchase anything for my Etsy shop, There will be a URL below. I don't know if I can link things yet. If I can, I will. If not, there will just be like a little typed out website that you can visit below if you'd like to check out my Etsy. But at the end of the day, we did end up breaking up, or like I ended up breaking up with her because she had a thing where she like didn't really like most foods. I love food, love fruit, love veggies, love all different types of meat, love fish, all of this, okay? She did not eat fruit. I don't think I ever saw her eat a piece of fruit. I don't know if I really saw her eat any vegetables. She pretty much only liked chicken and noodles, like really plain noodles. And like obviously she ate like chocolate and candy and whatever. She didn't eat cheese, which to me was crazy because I love cheese. Cheese is like the nectar of the gods. Like it was given to us by whatever pantheon to enjoy on this earth. Really, I should just be thanking the man or the woman who discovered cheese. But this was something that became a problem for me because there were certain places that like I knew we couldn't go and eat because there wasn't really going to be anything there that she would like. I would invite her to eat at my family's house, but a lot of the time she wouldn't eat most of the food because she didn't like it or she didn't want to try it. And I knew that it would become an issue later down the line because like I have family who live like up in like really rural parts of the Midwest. I'm kind of close to Canada, and they don't really live in a place where you can just be selective and picky about what you want to eat. They live off of the land, they grow a lot of their food, they hunt a lot of their food, and they make very delicious food from that, or like they make very delicious meals. But this is stuff that my ex would not have eaten. She wouldn't have touched it, and she would have starved up there if I would have taken her up there because there's no fast food. There isn't really like chain restaurants. There's probably like there's like little mom and pop shops everywhere. It's a super small community that does get like a lot of like summer or winter sport traffic, but for the most part it's very rural. There's hardly any people that live up there. Most of these food places that you eat are going to be very similar, where a lot of the stuff that they get is from the surrounding area or local farmers markets and things like that. She just wouldn't have eaten pretty much the whole time we're up there if I would have taken her. So it kind of got to the point where it's like, okay, this is going to be a barrier between not just you and I, but you and my family. And I never thought that food would be a deal breaker in a relationship for me, but it absolutely was. That was not the only reason that we broke up, but it was a really big reason. Religion was another aspect of why we broke up. Mostly on my part, not so much on her part, but I digress. Food was a huge part of why I broke up with her. And I feel like being a person who is at the very least willing to try new things is super important to me. I'm very open to trying new things. I do have my boundaries and my limits, but for the most part, I'll try just about anything. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. If I end up loving it, beautiful, awesome, wonderful. Do I think it's necessarily a red flag? It can be. Some people are just set in their ways. Some people who might be like a little bit autistic or, who have autism or like things like that. People who have like OCD or whatever, they might be very particular, or like people who have like sensory issues with food are very particular about what they eat. That's totally okay. Just make sure you like communicate that with your future partners and like dating and stuff, and don't like wait too long, because you don't know if that could be a barrier between you and that person, especially if it's like, because food can be very cultural. Food can be spiritual. So I think that like it's very important to at least communicate that with your partner very early in the relationship, so that way you can kind of determine if that's going to be an issue for you later on. Some of the comments say, weaponized incompetence, this OMG. I was a victim of it too and ended up getting so burnt out. Just want to sign up said she was close to 40. Just one example. I would cook, clean, walk the dogs, do grocery shopping. I was in a wheelchair going through multiple surgeries and treatments. One day I made a whole goddamn meal. Side stuff, main course, dessert. I forgot the rice. I begged her to just make rice. She was nearly 40 and started crying that her mom never taught her. I said, I'm here, I'll teach you. I told her to put a little oil in the pot, prepare the hot water, wash the rice. Boom. The pot and cabinet are on fire. Rice is not that hard to make. Granted, I'm no Gordon Ramsay. How do you how do you set your kitchen on fire making rice? I didn't even say to start the stove or anything. We were just prepping. No. I put it out as she ran to the other room saying I'm asking too much and destroying her self-esteem. Made rice myself, never asked again anything kitchen related. Oh, except for the one time I asked her to load the dishwasher and she put dirty ashtrays in with the utensils. That is some weaponized incompetence if I've ever heard it. Get in the Basement says, using her mental illness and trauma as an excuse for hurtful, self-centered behavior while simultaneously having no consideration for other people's mental illness or trauma. Agree. You can have your issues, but to use that to be a shitty person to somebody else is never acceptable. Your feelings are yours alone, and you should not take those out on others. Alone_trip8236 says, rather than lists of items, I notice how I feel around a person or after I've seen them. If I feel anxious, stressed, exhausted, judged, like I'm walking on eggshells and my nervous system is on fire, those are my red flags. If my body shuts down, if I feel unable to express myself or being myself, that's a red flag. If a partner is trying to mold me into something else, that's a red flag. If a partner is trying to belittle me, it's a red flag. If I feel frozen, consistently confused, and triggered, that's a red flag. So a lot of the times, people don't really realize this. I've worked with the public for a very long time. I've worked in customer service for the majority of my adult life. I started working at 15 or 16, and it's pretty much just been customer service the entire time. You can tell someone's intentions if you're very in tune with your gut instincts, probably just as soon as you meet them. Now, there is a saying don't judge a book by its cover, and you never should. But especially when it comes to dating and things like that, you can generally tell, how somebody is going to be pretty early on. Your body will send you signals. People forget that we do have instincts. You should trust your instincts. Your body will tell you a lot about yourself and someone else before you consciously think about it. Subconsciously your body will tell you, but before you even consciously think about it. And people do need to listen to their body and their intuition more often because, people do miss a lot of red flags just ignoring the feelings that they get from someone. You can be looking at the most attractive person in the world or talking to the most, smooth individual. But if you're getting weird vibes from that person, disengage entirely. Princess Woolawa, which is WLW, Women Love Women, signs that she might still be hung up or emotionally involved with an ex. My ex-girlfriend kept telling me she wanted to be civil with this particular ex, even though this ex has been messaging her late at night while talking shit about me. I thought she really was just a good-hearted person who didn't want any conflict, which is why she's trying so hard to be civil and kind. No, turns out she still has weird emotional ties with her ex. The ex was abusive. She had some sort of Stockholm syndrome. It was very traumatizing for me. Bia_Bruja says, came here to say this. Any weird stuff with an ex is a big nope for me. I was gaslit into convincing myself that I was jealous when it's nah, can you just maybe not text your ex constantly and hide it from me? Also wanted to be civil and maintain a friendship, but it clearly wasn't what was up. It was totally piggy banking. This same ex would take jabs at me too, yet I'm the jealous one, and was stalking me on social media, but when I voiced my frustrations and admitted to having to block her, just for my own sanity's sake, this ended up proving my jealousy, somehow. okay, sure. I'm sure some people can have friendships with their exes. I just don't want to be in relationships with them ever again. So this is something that I'm a little bit conflicted about, because sometimes you can be friends with your exes. Me and my ex-girlfriend do get along pretty well. We don't talk like often, or I don't think I've talked to her in a very, very long time. Probably been like 8 months or longer that I've spoken to her. But, like sometimes I'll just check up on her and make sure she's doing well. Or, depending on like how the relationship ended, you can end on good terms. I especially like to see exes getting along if there's children involved. Like if you are separated from a partner and the relationship was not abusive, it was just like a mutual parting of ways, I definitely believe, especially if there's children involved, that you should still be friends with each other, because not only is that good for the both of you mentally and emotionally, but it's really, really good for your kids to be able to see that, like, even though my parents aren't together, they do still love each other, they do still get along, and it is okay for them to still like be friends or whatever. And I feel like as anybody who like steps into those kinds of relationships where you're dating someone who is friends with their ex who, they co-parent with, you should be incredibly respectful of that, because at the end of the day, it's not about you, it's about those children. But for relationships where children are not involved, where maybe you parted pretty amiably, there wasn't any bad blood, it was just a mutual parting and you decide to be friends, I think in a lot of ways that's okay. Like, you can even go and hang out with them every once in a while, go get some coffee or whatever. There is a line though, and messaging someone at all times of the night when they're in a relationship with someone else, even though you were previously together, that's a big no-no. Like, you can be friends with your exes. I don't think by any means you should be like super close friends or best friends with exes if you're planning to be in relationships with other people. But like, there are lines that you cannot cross, and one of them is like blowing off your current relationship for an ex in the guise of being friends, even though you might still have feelings for that person, or that person might still have feelings for you. I think if you know for a fact that an ex still has feelings for you and you're in a relationship with somebody else, at that point you should probably cut them off, keep them at like a very, very arm's length, and just be like, yeah, no bad blood, no hard feelings, but I just don't think we can be friends. If you still have, feelings for them, or they still have feelings for you, but you're not together and you're with somebody else, you either need to break up with the person that you're with, or you need to like just stop being close to the person that you were with previously. Because like the people that you are with after, you break up with someone, they do not deserve to be the victim of your emotional baggage or your uncertainty or whatever, which is also why it's very important to wait an appropriate amount of time before entering a new relationship when you've exited a relationship. This is on r/queer. This is user character job 5209. Confused between bisexual and pansexual. What's the actual difference? I've always identified as bisexual, but lately I've been reading about pansexuality, and a lot of the descriptions resonate with me a lot. I genuinely don't care about the gender of the person I'm attracted to. It's more about the individual and the connection. That has made me wonder if I might actually be pansexual instead of bisexual. I know both orientations include attraction to multiple genders, but I'm curious about how people personally distinguish between the two. For those who identify as bi or pan, what makes you feel one label fits better than the other? Is it just about terminology, or does it reflect something deeper in how you experience attraction to an individual? So my feelings about this are not too terribly complicated, but I'll do my best to voice them, because sexuality is so incredibly fluid that sometimes things can overlap. So according to the wonderful Google machine, the definition of bisexual is sexually or romantically attracted to both men and women, or to more than one sex or gender. Then the definition of pansexual is sexually or romantically attracted to people regardless of their sex or gender. So from how I understand it, is bisexuality falls within the binary. So it has to do with the male-female aspect. You are attracted to both men and women. And then I would also argue that like non-binary people do fall within that, because they're like the neutral between the two. So for me, bisexual is just you're attracted to men, you're attracted to women, and then maybe like non-binary people, because those people tend to, you know, you can be androgynous. There are androgynous people out there. A lot of the people that I see lean to either slightly more masculine or slightly more feminine. I consider myself to be a feminine lesbian, but I do have a lot more masculine energy, if that makes sense. Like I like to dress very in a very feminine way, but I feel as though my energy is very masculine. With pansexuality is like across the board. Like you don't care if they're trans, what stage in their transition they're in, if they're a trans man, if they're a trans woman, if they're non-binary, if they're, you know, anywhere on the spectrum, if they're, you know, anywhere in the umbrella that is LGBTQ, you don't care what their sexuality is. You do not care what their gender is. You don't care. You are just attracted to whoever, anybody. And that would kind of be like what I would understand pansexual to be. There were not any comments on that post quite yet. It was a very new post in r/queer. If you have a contradictory or a different definition of pansexual and bisexual, or if you see those definitions differently or like consider those two different in a different way than I do, leave that down in the comments. Maybe we can make an episode about that and have like a discussion about bisexuality versus pansexuality. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Good first episode. Hey, everybody has to start somewhere. Hoping, praying to any energy in the universe listening that Obergfell will be upheld, gay marriage will still be considered a right, and that they won't try to send it back to the states, because I live in a state that was one of the first to legalize gay marriage, but unfortunately I think would try to be one of the first to ban it. And I'm hoping that, you know, it doesn't happen. I won't have to move to somewhere else, but at this point I was kind of already considering moving to a different state. I don't know. The United States is getting very dicey, very scary, especially for those of us who are like me, who are very minority. I'm a Black lesbian woman. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to join me for another chat sesh, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment below if you have any insight about the pansexual, bisexual divide, or anything else that has to do with the queer, bisexual, lesbian, gay community. Today is kind of a scary day for us. Hopefully we come out on top. Who knows what will happen? We'll have to wait and see. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there.
Caixa tá preparada pra fuder sua safada. Vem sentando na piroca.